Today we're going to make one of my all-time favorites, the cupcake flower bouquet. Now that I have this, I have already baked over 40 cupcakes. Sometimes it takes more of them and sometimes it takes less of them, and there's different schools of thought on this. Some people believe that if you have it a little bit inside, it works better, and some people prefer for it to be puffed up a little bit, and they feel like that works fine. So, you could try both and see what works for you. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, by the way, these are the small cupcakes. The pan for the small cupcakes actually makes a lot. So if 40 sounds like a lot to you, it's actually not that much. I have some round toothpicks, and I'm just going to push this in here. Around the bottom, I tend to do 2 toothpicks. And it's okay if it sticks out a little bit. That's not going to hurt my feelings at all. There we go. Because your frosting is going to cover that up, and sometimes I think it helps to hold the frosting on there. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go all the way around the bottom of this, and I'm just going to make these stick to it. So I wanted to show you this right here now that I've gotten all the way around the bottom. We have kind of a little bit of a gap. And so that can be very normal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of these off, and I'm just going to move them around a little bit so that we can kind of put maybe a little bit of a space in between them, and that way it will fill the gap in a little better, as you can see. So sometimes we play with it a little bit. So this is the side that I took some of them out and kind of moved them over just a little bit, so there's a little space in between just to fill in the gap, so you can see it completed now. And now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start working on the next level of them. Now keep in mind that they're not all going to be perfect, and they're not going to all go in the perfect little spots here, so you may find yourself moving them around a little bit, and there's going to be some gaps here and there. I'm going to explain to you what to do with those in a minute, but each of these, you just put it on there, and then once you find the spot for it, then you just stick a toothpick in. At this point, I'm just putting 1 toothpick in for each of them. So I have taken my tissue paper and use my scissors to cut. I kind of like eyeball them. They're about 1.5 to 2 inches square little pieces of tissue paper, and this is going to be the greenery that goes in between my cupcakes here. So I can use a tool like this, and I can kind of like smash this up and just kind of like poke it in between all of these. And I could just fill in anywhere where there's a gap. And if you want to put more than one, like let's say there's a big gap, I can actually put a couple of them. Or if you don't want to use this tool, you could just poke it in there. So, you have options. So I'm just going to go all the way around, and anywhere where there's a gap, I'm going to put 1 or 2 or a couple of these little green things, and it's going to make greenery between my flowers. So I have put together my frosting now. I have 2 different colors, one a little darker than the other basically, and in Grandma's bowls. I finally get to use Grandma's bowls, and I'm going to put this in this bag. I'm going to be using this tip. I like to call it the Tutti Frutti. It's the 2D, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it in my bag here, get it nice and tight. I have my scissors, and I'm going to put it back right there. Okay. Pull. And that's the way that I can always guarantee that I have all my holes free and not covered by bag. Perfect hole. I didn't make it too big, too small, just right. I can push on it a little bit and get nice and tight in there. And now what I want to do is I'm going to peel this down pretty far, and we're going to stripe this bag so we have two different colors in here so you can see how far down it is. So now gotta make sure that that stays tight because it has a way of wiggling around. I don't need a coupler for this because this is a big tip and I don't need a coupler for that. Alright, I got a little bit of my one color. You can see that it's halfway in the bag. It's okay if these two mix together. I don't have to clean the spatula every time. Now I'm gonna get my other one. You can see that. So it just adds a little extra dimension to have two different colors in there. So now I can kind of like scooch this up a little bit, and I'm just going to continue to fill this bag. I have to remember where the darker pink was and where the lighter pink was so I don't get mixed up. It's really easy to get mixed up. So another tip that you could use for this would be the 1M. It's very similar to this, but my favorite is the 2D only because it has a way of looking a little more like a flower. But if all you have is the 1M, you're good to go. You can use that, no problem. So as you can see, I can jam it in here and just kind of like wipe it on my hand. So now, at this point, I can tickle it a little bit to try to get rid of any of these air bubbles. I'm just going to go tickle, 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 tickle. I'm just working on getting rid of air bubbles. I can use my fingers like a pair of scissors and just kind of like slide it down. Scissor fingers, slide it down. I'm going to tickle it again. It's alright if it kind of like mixes together a little. That's alright. I'm not too worried. And it's okay if it comes out a little too. Don't worry about that. It's going to come out eventually whether we want it to or not. Sliding it down, scissor fingers, sliding it down. So now I can actually squeeze it a little bit too and get some of this air out. See how when it makes it sound. That wasn't me. That was my frosting. So you will find yourself filling your bag quite a bit with this.
No.
Jerry's holding Honey and the camera because she's determined to be with us here.
No.
Honey. So I am going to start at the top here, and all I have to do is go around in a circle, and then I have to stop on the side, and that's how it looks like a rose. So now I'm just going to work my way down. And anytime that you want to, you can kind of like adjust it with your finger if you need to. Almost done here. Just kind of like putting the finishing ones on here. The final one right here.
And then that's basically it, right?
Yep, so this is how it looks when it's all done. All these flowers. And then when you go to eat it, you just grab it from the bottom and pull it off. And then you can kind of like work your way up when you're eating. Will you be my Valentine? Is it tradition for them to eat the bouquet, Jerry?
I don't think so.